We're here with Dean Edwards, founder, team boss of Tasol GT. Dean, the year to date's been difficult. Take us back to the beginning of the year and the move from House of Paints to Tasol, new sponsor, new team, and getting the whole setup up and running.
Yeah, well, as you know, the end of year last year was extremely difficult for us. We were faced at the 11th hour with the news that House of Paint would be finishing off their sponsorship, and purely based on the fact that there was a lot of restructuring going on within the company. A new board stepped in, and basically a new plan was put in place, and all sponsorships and a lot of retrenchments happened within the company. And yeah, obviously the the sponsorship ended at the 11th hour. This put us in a very difficult position, and we went through the whole of November and December, looking for a new sponsor. And luckily, we managed to come across. We put our proposal out to numerous companies, and the most difficult thing for me was being turned away time and time again. But we had built up such a good thing over the last 4 years, and I had so many youngsters working for me or within the team that I wasn't just prepared after all that I'd put in for this project to fail.
You talk about being turned away. In the current economic climate and being a small outfit from Durban, and your experience, what is it like trying to find sponsorship in South Africa?
Extremely difficult. Like I said, we were turned away numerous times, and exactly that. If I heard in another meeting, the global recession or something along those lines was the excuse for every company that came across, and not really an excuse, it is the reality which we realized. I think something in sponsorships now, if you look even, just slightly going off the exact question, if you look at the HTC deal, I mean, it is the most successful team in world cycling, and they struggled to renew that sponsorship. Reports of $400 million worth of advertising was given back and still couldn't find a sponsor. And I think advertising really has taken a knock in terms of sponsorships. Because of that, companies have really scaled down, and I think personally what I'm starting to learn being involved in the business side of it is what you can generate for your sponsor in terms of income is what's going to help secure your sponsorship going forward. So the most important thing is being able to network amongst your partners, which we have started to do now, in order to secure a real return, not only the advertising and publicity side of things.
You have a few really good loyal sponsors on board, but moving on from that, and you talk about the return for your sponsors, there's the Hoff factor. When you were approaching sponsors, did you know then you were going to sign Nolan?
Not really. Nolan and we've always been good friends. We've raced on the track when he was at his other team, and we were on opposing teams. We still raced together on the national team. So we've had a good relationship then, and we always had the dream of it. It was always difficult then because he had his program, I had mine. He was never always given free rein to come onto the track, which I always still to this day say that, I think if he really had been given free rein 2, 3, 4 years ago, things would have turned out pretty different. But that's my personal views, and I've expressed that, and a lot of people don't agree with it. But that was part and parcel of the negotiations with Nolan. Is I realized the track also was fairly close to his heart, and we wanted to give him that opportunity with our setup. So I had it in the back of my mind, but it wasn't our selling point when we went to our sponsors in terms of securing a new deal with Tasol going forward.
Tasol and, well, your association with GT Bicycles, but Tasol's been nominated for a Small Business Award. How did you find each other?
Again, like I say, we put our feelers out to everybody. I touched on every bit of information I knew. I networked. I called in favors with everybody I knew. And I mean, the one thing about this team I can say is the character is actually what pulled this thing through. Some of my riders ran, some of them looked for other opportunities, some of them received other opportunities, which I can never slate them for taking them because I couldn't offer them anything concrete. Richie Baxter, David Murray, stuck around, they hung around, and I heard reports of people speaking to Rich, and Rich saying that, you know, don't worry, I know Dean's going to find us something, and that just speaks volumes for the character that the youngsters had, and the faith that they had in me to secure it. David Murray had a contact at Tasol. He said that I should send through a presentation. He knew someone, and yeah, we sent through the presentation. It took a while because at that time of year too, November, December, it's not the easiest time to approach a company to come on board to the scale of running a professional cycling team. And we actually didn't really hear anything right through December. I'd managed to raise some funds, and I took a bit of a risk. And I actually said, you know what, I'm going to sign you guys without the whole budget being approved. I had money to run the team for 3 years, personal funding, and I signed this team and the riders in December. I was at Boxing Day. I signed Nolan then at Boxing Day, Clint as well over the Christmas period with no sponsor. And as soon as companies opened up in Jan, I got back onto it, and eventually they said, you know, come up, and it's pretty much been approved by the board. And yeah, let's negotiate and come up with a figure. And mid-January we managed to sign the contract that enabled us to carry on.
So from an uncertain foundation and beginnings, roll on April, Tour Durban, and your team has rocketed to the forefront of cycling in this country. How many wins has it been to date?
Yeah, we've got 15 wins both on road and track. That's targeting proper, you know, pretty established races. The track, not just your average weekend race like national titles. So we've got 15. We've just come off a training camp where we set some goals, and we said, you know, in certain parts of the year that we wanted 20 wins this season. I think the best I've ever had over the 4 years with House of Paint was 5 wins in a season. We're already at 15. So it's incredible. And if we make our 20, which was a dream number that we thought of at the beginning of the year for a team that runs, that, like you said, nearly fell apart. Look, obviously there's a lot of factors that played its part, and you know, we only started really getting our wins in April. Also, obviously, like you said, the Hoff factor has been a major contribution to that. He's an incredible athlete. But even in January and February, you know, the youngsters stepped up to the plate when he wasn't there.
I was going to say, I was standing on the side of the road at Tour Durban, last turn before you entered the stadium. Spies was on the front. I think you were second wheel and Nolan was third wheel. But tactically, I actually thought no one's going to beat them from that position.
Yeah. Yeah, look, obviously also at Tour Durban, the finish really suited us too. It was very technical. We had just arrived back from SA Track Champs, so we all had really good form in terms of, you know, our sprinting ability. So we were really fast, and we had really run the finish over. We had gone the day before with it being so technical. It was 2 90-degree left-hand turns within the last 500 meters, and we knew that if we go the first three guys through these 2 corners, it's going to be very difficult, especially with Nolan on the back of our train, for anybody to beat us. And we managed to do it. 200 meters before the first left-hander, we took control, and yeah.
Moving on for the remainder of the year, what's the plan?
Again, like I say, obviously we want to get those next 5 wins in as quick as possible, and you know, pass our goal of 20 race wins. In the very near future, we've obviously got Tour Free State that's starting in 2-3 days time. So we've set ourselves some pretty high goals there, and looking at the points jersey there, obviously stage wins. We're going in with one common goal and putting up all our eggs in one basket in terms of looking for stage wins and the sprinters jersey. And even, you know, GC, we realize that we're not realistically at that level to win a big tour like that yet, but there's no reason why we can't make an impact and even possibly be in the top 3 on GC or the top 5 with Richie, the way he's developed over the last couple of months. And going forward, yeah, we continue to look at the big classics. Probably one of the highlighted one is Amashova. We want to do the Durban double this year. And it's a race that we've come closer, and even Nolan's got a lot of history with that race too. I think he's been 2nd or 3rd on numerous occasions, as was the case with Tour Durban too. He had never won that neither. So he's always enjoyed racing in Durban as well. And you know, hopefully also my level has got a little bit better then too. So maybe we have a trump card to play, whether we sprint for Nolan or me. It might be also, you know, a bit of poker during the race. And then 94.7, it's obviously a big race on the same scale as the Argus to a degree. So from a publicity point of view, that's also a big goal for us.
On a sadder note, tell us about Clint.
Yeah, Clint, unfortunately, we put out a statement yesterday. Out of the blue, I mean, again, the setup that we run with our youngsters and the development that we have, that we try and instill within our team, he's probably been the revelation. He's come on in leaps and bounds. He's really riding well. He received huge publicity and a lot of credit for his riding at Tour of South Africa. And as a person too, you know, he's developed. I see from when I had the first meeting with him back in December last year to the person that he is now. If I sit in and have a one-on-one meeting, it's like I'm sitting in front of a different chap. So he's grown as a person, he's grown as a rider. And yeah, unfortunately about just over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, incredible form at our training camp. And when we came back up from Durban, on the morning of Carousel, he had extreme swelling in his left bicep, and we didn't really know what happened. Maybe he pinched a nerve or something, and you know, as athletes are, they just keep pushing. He still rode well. It got worse and worse, and I said, okay, let's go to a physio and see what's happening. The physio first diagnosed that he thinks there might be a torn muscle, so they did some strapping, some treatment. 4 days later, there was still no improvement. And I said, no, we've got to really go and see a proper sports doctor and see what's going on. And the doctor immediately said, you know, we did a sonogram, and the doc said immediately that they found a blood clot in one of his main veins in his bicep, which yeah, obviously could be pretty fatal if not taken care of. So they referred to a professor that did further tests and an evaluation, and he was admitted immediately into hospital. And treatment has begun to try and thin the blood and clear the clot. And it's going to be a long process, because once that gets rid of it, we then have to see now how we're going to prevent it, because it seems like it's actually a problem within Clint in the human body. It's like a physical problem. He's too overdeveloped. There's a bit of muscle that's between his top rib and his collarbone. There's too much muscle there, and it's pinching on a vein, which is causing that blood clot. So we're going to have to see what options we have in order to prevent it once we've actually fixed the problem at the moment.
Dean Edwards, thank you very much.
Great, thanks.